Welcome back, dear students. Today we are going to discuss the next topic in the subject Environmental Engineering 1. So, already in the previous classes, we have already discussed what is environmental engineering. So, environmental engineering mainly deals with water supply engineering. We also saw what are the various sources of water, what is water demand, what is per capita demand, etc. So, in today's class, we will be discussing the following topics: the effects of variation in demand on the design capacities of the components of water supply scheme, design period, and population forecasting. So we know that in order to ensure the availability of sufficient quantity of good quality of water, it becomes necessary in the modern society to plan and build suitable water supply schemes, and this may provide portable water to the various sections of the community in accordance with the requirements and also the demand. So also I told you that a typical water supply scheme comprises of three main components. One is the source, that is the source from which the water is taken. Then we have the treatment units wherein the water is being treated so that it can be made potable. And then we have the distribution or the pipeline networks. So whenever an engineer is given the duty to design a water supply scheme for a particular section of the community, it becomes imperative upon him to first of all evaluate. There are two things which he has to evaluate. Firstly, the amount of water that is available, and then the amount of water that is demanded by the public. We also saw there are various types of demands like the domestic demand, the institutional demand, the demand fire demand, then again demand due to losses and thefts, etc., that we discussed in the previous class. Also we saw that there are various fluctuations in demand, and we discussed the seasonal variation, daily variation, and the hourly variation. So we know that seasonal variation, it is nothing but that we know that it is a variation in the demand due to change in the seasons. For example, the demand will peak during the summer because there is every chance for a breakout of a fire, especially. This is one example which I am giving you. During summer there may be a chance of breakout of a fire, so that will increase the demand. So there may be other reasons due to which the variations occur due to change in the seasons. Then again coming to the daily variation. So the daily variation again depends upon the activity, day-to-day activities. We know that people will draw out more water on holidays, especially like on Sundays or some festival days when it is a holiday. And on these days what happens is there will be daily variation and there will be increase in demand on these particular days. Then coming to hourly variations. So hourly variations are also very important because they have a wide range, especially during the active household working hours, that is from say about 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning and around 4 to 8 p.m. in the evening. There will be it will be very active. So during this period there will be high rise in the demand of water, and during other hours we can say the requirement will be negligible. Also, when in the event of a breakout of a fire also, we can say that there will be huge quantity of water that is required to during a short period of time. Now, so an adequate quantity of water must be available in order to meet the peak demand. And also, while we design a water supply scheme, there may be effect of variation in demand on the design capacities of the components of the water supply scheme. So there may be there are different components in a water supply scheme which we will be discussing later on. What are the various components in detail? So in order to meet all the fluctuations, the supply pipelines, the service reservoirs, the distribution pipes, etc., must be properly proportioned. And again, the water that is supplied by pumping directly and the pumps and the distribution system should be designed in order to meet the peak demand. So we'll see what are the effects of variation in demand on the design capacities of components of water supply scheme. So as I told you, a typical water supply scheme consists of various components. Firstly, coming to the source of supply. So the sources of supply such as wells, etc. has to be designed for maximum daily consumption, or sometimes even for average daily consumption. So when it comes to the sources of supply, it is usually designed for the maximum daily consumption. Now next, coming to the pipe mains or the piping network. So the piping mains actually take the water from the source up to the service reservoir. So this has to be designed again for maximum daily consumption. So the demand should be the maximum daily consumption, that should be taken into account when you design a piping main or pipe main. Now coming to the filter and other units. As I told you, we will be discussing in detail what are the various units of treatment. So filter unit is a unit that comes in the treatment of the water in a water treatment plant. So when you design a filter or similar units or other units at the water treatment plant, it should be designed again for maximum daily draft. So usually an additional provision also is given, or it is provided as a reserve, and this is mainly when taking into account for any breakdown or repair work. So therefore in that case, what we do is, when we design a filter or other similar units, we will design it for twice the average daily demand. So we will be considering the average daily demand and multiplied by 2. That is what we will be consider. That demand is what we consider when you design a filtered unit or some other similar units. And again, coming to the pumps. The pumps are usually fitted for lifting the water, and they are also designed for maximum daily draft. And again, here some additional reserve is made for breakdowns and repairs. So again, here we consider the demand as twice the average daily demand. Now coming to the distribution system. So the distribution system again includes the pipes that carry water from the reservoir to the distribution system. So this is again designed for maximum hourly draft of the maximum day, or we'll take the coincident draft with fire, that is along with the fire demand. So whichever is more, that will be considered. So that is about the effects of variation in demand on the design capacities of the components of a water supply scheme. Now coming to what is design period. So design period. So here again, we know that whenever we design a water supply scheme, the water supply scheme actually includes a very huge and costly structures which cannot be replaced or increased, or we cannot increase their capacities easily and conveniently, because replacement can cause some other complications. So in order to avoid all these future complications of expansions, the various components of a water supply scheme are purposely made larger. So whenever we design it itself, we make it larger so as to satisfy the community needs for a reasonable number of years to come. So whenever you design a water supply scheme, we design it for a longer period. Why? In order to avoid any complications in future. So the future period for which a provision is made in the water supply scheme, we call it as the design period. So that particular number of years or that period for which we design a water supply scheme is known as the design period. And design period should neither be too long nor it should be too short. And usually we see that the water supply schemes are designed for 22 to 30 years or 20 to 30 years. And this is actually worked out with due provision for the estimated requirements of the future. Now next, coming to the various factors that govern the design period. What are the design period is actually estimated based on the following factors. So as you see here, the useful life of the component structures. So the life of the component structures in a water supply scheme, and also the chances of their become old and obsolete, is one factor that governs the design period. So design period should not exceed those respective values. And next is the expandability aspect. So expandability aspect means the ease and difficulty that is likely to be faced when you go for expansions in future. So more difficult expansions means choosing a higher value of the design period. So whenever you design a project, keeping in mind the likely expansions that has to be done in future, we will have to choose higher value for design period. Now coming to the next point, that is anticipated rate of growth of population. So this again includes possible shifts in the communities, industries and the commercial establishments. Then the available resources. So amount and availability of additional investments likely to be incurred for additional provisions. For example, if the funds are not available, one has to keep a smaller design period. So you need funds for various activities like maintenance and all that. So if the funds are not available, one has to keep a smaller design period. And then coming to the rate of interest on the borrowings and the additional money that is being invested. For example, if the interest rate is very small, a higher value of design period may be chosen, or it can be justified because it will be economical and thus we can adopt it. So these are the factors on which or the factors that governs the selection of the design period. Now next coming to population forecasting. So what is meant by population forecasting? So once we fix the design period, the next step is to determine the population of a town or a city, and this is called process of determining the population. We call it as population forecasting or predicting the population. So population is actually used to indicate the total number of human beings residing in a certain area at a particular time. And whenever we design a water supply project, we should be noted that we don't design it for a present population alone, since the design period is say for about 20 to 30 years. We design it for a period of say 20 to 30 years, for more than 2 or 3 decades. So when the water supply project is not designed only for the present population, but also it is designed in order to accommodate the future. And the population forecasting methods, there are various methods, and this requires the values of the present and the past population records in order to do the calculations. So whenever we predict or forecast the population, we require some data, and these data are nothing but the values of the present population as well as the past population records. And the local census records of a particular area provides the value of these present and past populations. Now here these are the different methods of population forecasting. As you see here, there are innumerable methods. Firstly, the arithmetic increase method, then we have the geometric increase method, incremental increase method, simple graphical method, comparative graphical method, decreasing rate of growth method, the ratio method or the apportionment method, and then we have the logistic curve method. Coming to the arithmetic increase method. So this method is mainly based on the assumption that the population is increasing at a constant rate. So we just assume that the increasing rate of population is constant, and this rate of change of population we say that it is constant with respect to time. And the population after n decades can thus be determined by using the formula as given below. Pn is equal to p plus n into x, where Pn is the forecasted population after n decades. So 1 decade is 10 years. So Pn represents the population after n decades from the present, and P represents the population at present. And again, as I told you, n is nothing but the number of decades, and x is the average of the population increase in the known decades. So this will be more clear when we start working out problems. So the main advantages of this method is that it is suitable for large and old city with considerable development. And the disadvantage is that if it is used for small, average or comparatively new cities, it will give lower population estimate than the actual value. Coming to the next method, that is a geometric increase method. Again, this method is based on the assumption that the percentage increase in population from decade to decade remains constant. And one more thing, in this method, the average percentage of growth of the last few decades is determined, and the population at the end of n decades is then calculated using the formula Pn is equal to Po into 1 plus R by 100, and here Po represents the initial population and Pn represents the future population, that is the population after n decades, and then R represents the assumed growth rate. So here, as I told you, in this method the average percentage of growth of last few decades is determined. So this is the geometric increase method. So the main advantages are, it gives better results for old cities which are not undergoing further development, and the disadvantages are that the fixation of the percentage in the case of developing cities should be done carefully or it might give high results. So we'll discuss in detail the population forecasting methods and also work out a few problems in the next class. Thank you.